All right, welcome to the Pride Time panel. I'm gonna introduce myself. I'm gonna ask you all to introduce yourselves. Hi, my name is Madelyn Farris. I'm an actor, writer, and filmmaker based in Baltimore, Maryland, and I'll be moderating this panel of lovely and talented filmmakers.
Hi, I'm Seyla Hossaini. I'm a writer and director based in Richmond, Virginia.
I'm Christopher Cunetto. I'm a writer, director, producer based here in DC.
My name is Ariane Powell. I am a writer, actor, producer, and smut poet.
My name is Meredithe Ettrich, and I'm a filmmaker in DC.
Excellent. Thank you all so much. So since we are talking to such lovely and talented filmmakers, I just wanted to begin by asking how you came to your journey of filmmaking. What got you interested, and what was your first film?
So I have always been a writer since I can essentially remember picking up a pen. And I, throughout teenagehood and young adulthood, thought maybe I was a novelist. And then when I found screenwriting, it just kind of clicked as the perfect medium with that like writing and then the physical aspect of filmmaking attached to it and like really bringing characters to life. My first film was technically a silent film called Relief. But my first like proper film with sound, audio, dialogue, everything was The Misadventures of Frankie Finch, which is about a serial killer.
I want to see that.
Yeah. You can.
My first film was called Monkey Business, and I made it at 13 years old, and it was a spoof of Mission Impossible starring kind of like an old man sock puppet monkey thing that I got in Disney World. And I shot it with a webcam that was attached to my compact Presario that I had to, like, for setups, like, unplug the whole computer, move it, and, like, the Logitech webcam was corded. And so it was limiting to the production, but that was my first film. I actually kind of took a detour from narrative filmmaking for the rest of my life until after art school, when I kind of got into making fashion films, and that led me back to narrative filmmaking kind of in my early adulthood, and now I'm here.
I mentioned in the last panel, I got my BFA in acting in 2011 from Texas State University and worked in Austin for a bit, did some films, realized I was gay, and that I didn't belong in a skirt with a short bob. I know. It was cute, though. And so I moved to New York, chopped off my hair, had a buzz cut, started writing a screenplay. That got into pre-production in 2019. You can guess what happened after that. The boutique production company that picked it up dissolved, and I started writing a book of erotic poetry, and then I started writing another screenplay about an unhinged artist, and when I had writer's block with that, I wrote Sock, and Sock is my first film that I wrote and produced and starred in.
I always had like a camera and was recording everything growing up, but around 15, I figured out what a cinematographer was, and I was like, that's my jam. I'm gonna do that. And so then I went to a vocational film school and just kind of went out in the world and helped on everyone else's set. And Lady Frankie, which is being shown 6 to 9. This is like my first big narrative being shown at a festival. So thank you guys. Thank you, gay people.
Thank you, gay people.
One more time for gay people. Let's applaud ourselves. We don't get enough love. Amazing. Thank you all for those beautiful answers. Since we get to have this amazing panel of queer filmmakers, I'm curious, we already got one of the answers, but when did you come into your queer identity? And is that still forming for you?
I feel like I've just been bisexual since I was born.
Amazing.
I can't ever really remember like coming out. I mean, I feel like it's, there's been the pendulum has swung different directions at different times in my life, but it's always been like, there's never been like a fully straight or fully gay period. I feel like it's always just been that way. I will say in terms of like film, LGBT film was definitely like a big turning point for me in deciding I wanted to make films, because I feel like I remember being in high school and the lesbian and gay section of Netflix always had like Swedish and French, really strange, like low budget lesbian films, and that's definitely was like when I decided I wanted to make films. I was like, oh, movies don't have to be normal. They can be like really weird 3-hour-long movies just full of like graphic gay sex and about like real love stories and not about like action and gunfire and stuff. So that was
Thank you, blue is the warmest color.
yeah.
Imagine me and you.
But yeah, I don't think there was ever like a coming out time for me. I don't know. I've just been bi since I was born, I think.
I came out at 16, mostly because I met a guy I wanted to make out with a lot. So it was a very classic adolescent kind of self-discovery phase for me. Similarly, like queer cinema also raised me. That movie that I'm blanking on the name on, Gael Garcia Bernal and Diego Y Tu Mama Tambien. Yeah. No. Yeah? No. Anyway, it was like this kind of like sexy bisexual journey to like the ocean side, and that was a moment where I was like, okay, well, I might have to dig into this a little. But yeah, I lived in a small town in Missouri called Springfield. So we were basically the only two gay guys that I knew of. So I was just lucky that I met someone that I was able to kind of like discover that with. But here I am, just a few years later.
Yeah, growing up in a small town of 200 people in central South Texas, I thought that I was a really good Christian girl for a long time. And then in high school, just kind of noticed that I was really into watching Logo occasionally. And I was really, especially into gay history on the Logo channel. And sex scenes were kind of sex scenes no matter what, but like there was something about it. And then in college, I fell in love with my best friend, who I remained in love with throughout. And eventually in 2000, I don't know, I was 23, and I had a date, and I realized that I didn't want him and that there wasn't anything that he was doing wrong. I just didn't want him. And yeah, been real gay ever since.
That's a bit of a hard question. I have an answer for gay movies. Definitely the L Word. I was like, whoa, there are gay people and they can be filmed. And then But I'm a Cheerleader. Definitely, right? But yeah, I feel like I've always been gay, but I grew up in Virginia in like a Christian community. So it was definitely something I did rather than said. You know, it was like, I feel like I've had to pour a lot of my expression into this.
Amazing. Thank you all. So on the topic of the queer films that raised us, is there anything that you think is missing from LGBTQ cinema as it stands now that you're hoping to bring to it with your work?
I'm like, why did I choose to be first?
You can popcorn it. It's totally okay.
I mean, I will say, like, in terms of like bisexual representation, I feel like there's a lot, but maybe not a lot that I personally relate to. I mean, I haven't. I'm like, I don't want to misspeak because I'm like, okay, what movies about bisexuals like can I think of off the top of my head now? But I feel like, I mean, at least personally, in terms of like what my films will at some point bring to the table is like some new bisexual representation, I guess. I mean, maybe come back to me. I'm like trying to think of how to word this.
I mean, I think to me it's specificity, you know, like we have these kind of archetypical gay stories or queer stories, and I definitely see, you know, us moving away from telling those, and I think, you know, we've just got to, because the more specific we can be about like what our lives are actually like as queer people on screen, you know, you actually become more universal, because you're not, if you're not making a film about like, oh, I'm sad, I'm gay, you're making a film about like moving through grief or like accepting, I don't know, or finding love or something. And if your character kind of lives in the queer world, it's almost like the same reason that people go see like an action movie. I'm never going to be like an action star, but if it's a good story, it's going to resonate with me. Like, people can go see a queer film, and it doesn't matter if they're not a queer person. If the story is about something human, that's what will resonate. And you know, in making those kinds of films, it humanizes the queer community, because it's a way to show like, oh, you know, we're all just human beings. So, you know, and then just in terms of character writing, like the more specific you are, often the better that character is. I think a lot about Evelyn from Everything Everywhere All at Once. That is a very specific person, but she goes through something that, you know, is a lot of people can relate to, and is just like a really, really compelling character. So more of that for queer cinema too.
Whimsy. I want more whimsy in queer filmmaking. I want to show the joy and silliness of being gay and being with people who you love and who love you, and feeling normal because you are, and not letting other people's normal define you. I also want sex scenes not directed by men that involve lesbians. Some is fine, but there are just so many, and they're so male-gazy. So more from the female, trans, non-binary perspective as well.
Yeah, I was going to say pizzazz and intersectionality.
I kind of like what you said about like not just gay characters being sad about being gay, or like those kind of stereotypes, or like where the whole story circulates around someone's sexuality. Like certain things I'm writing right now, there are characters who are like queer, but it's not really like the point of their whole story. So I think, yeah, just focusing on like the interpersonality of the character and not just revolving around like their sexuality.
Yeah, a less reductive way of viewing a character. Those are wonderful answers.
Oh, and showing queer people being evil too. I think there's time for a villain arc.
We're past the Hays Code, you know? Excellent answers. Well, I have several questions, but I'm going to start with a fun one. So we're all aware that queer baiting is a thing, TM. Were you queer baited by any specific pairing when you were a young person? It happens a little bit less now, but it certainly was in the post-Hays Code world a big thing. So does anybody have a queer bait relationship that still haunts you to this day?
Only girls in my real life.
Oof.
I can't think of
I was called queer bait.
Oh.
Yeah. Guys, it's not sad. It's funny now.
It's fun.
It's funny. I'm like looking at you and I'm like, how is that bait?
Jafar from Aladdin.
What?
Very gay.
Yeah.
Very gay. I don't know if that's like, I wasn't queer bait by the media, because, you know, they say they dangle a character and like, oh, this might be gay, you should watch this.
Yeah.
You know, that's kind of queer baiting, but I've always felt some type of way about Jafar.
Yeah, so that's queer coding as opposed to...
Right,
yeah.
sure.
But that's an excellent queer coding. We can all agree.
I can't think queer baiting without thinking Cate Blanchett. And I'm not mad at it. There are a lot of lesbians that are very angry about queer baiting, and I'm just not among them. I respect their feelings. However, I just have so many things to be angry about, and that's not one. Bait me. Bait me. I'm having the time of my life. Look at Aubrey Plaza's breasts on the red carpet and bait me. It's fine.
Is Aubrey Plaza queer? Maybe.
Yeah.
She's bi. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
She's actively fighting to make her
real bi.
characters
Yeah.
queer. Yeah.
I don't know if this. I think I just made this up, but I thought that the big reveal in Barbie was that she was going to be a lesbian. I think I just made based on the trailer, but that was a huge disappointment for me.
I see the vision.
Right? The trailer's them looking at each other.
She's always
They
like
did
pushing Ken away.
Bait you a little with Weird Barbie. Kate McKinnon did a little bit queer bait you. Again, I'm not mad. I had a good time.
Oh my god, Weird Barbie and then Barbie. That's like what the couples in Richmond look like.
Bedside too.
Sorry to our Richmond audience.
Or you're welcome, depending on how you feel. Excellent. I think for me it was Faith and Buffy. Yeah. Answer for your crimes, Joss Whedon. Anyway, moving right along. I think, not to bring it down, but we would be ignoring the elephant in the room not to discuss the strong conservative turn that things have taken in this country lately. And obviously that has ripple effects for everyone, us included. And so I'm wondering, in the face of the strong backlash to queer rights and to trans rights, how that affects the films that you're hoping to make in the future, and honestly, how are you getting through? What are you doing? What are you doing to stay positive?
Just keep making art, and just keep doing the same thing. I mean, I think that there's definitely been. I think that when one side gets more extreme, there's the pushback gets bigger as well. So, trying to keep positive, I would say, and just keep making the stuff I want to make.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree with that. I think of it like this. Our queer ancestors did a lot of work to carve out room for us to be in culture, right? In all areas, in family, in art, in public spaces. And, since we're in a time where our, government and political forces are trying to shrink that, I think one of the roles an artist must play in these times is to keep making the work that holds the line, right? That keeps that space full of things. And I actually think that sometimes it's not as effective to make political queer art, but it is effective to make art about what your life is like and who you are, because that is the effective political move. Because what does that do? It humanizes you.
Don't force it.
Exactly.
Because then
Right.
it just comes out so bad.
Right, and then and if there's a very specific pointed political message, then it becomes this big fucking thing that people argue about. So really, it's just finding the way to make more work, even though it's really hard. That's all. Yeah.
I agree with everything said before me. Also, really leaning into community. Our expressing and experiencing joy in community is a radical act. And I think it's really important to make sure that you carve out time to just have fun. Those that went before us were protesting by day, visiting their friends in the morning and dancing all night. And we have to remember the dance all night part, whatever form that may take, even if it's a knitting circle, book club, your local bar. Just really finding time to not re-traumatize yourself too much, and remember that we're all a little overrun by the news, and take time to just talk about the other things also, and go to the protests and be organized. Don't panic.
It's definitely something I've been thinking a lot about because it took us 4 years to make this in total. And so the world I made it for just does not exist anymore. And the world I was anticipating did not come. And so it made it a little bit, I'm still figuring it out, honestly. Just I'm still figuring out how to respond to fascism, basically. But I think we just gotta like fight back however we can.
I mean, I would say, like, yeah, I've been encouraging, like, people who are marginalized, keep posting your art, keep making art. Like, people are already trying to silence you. Don't let, like, your peers silence you by making you feel bad about wanting to, like, I mean, at least immediately after, like, the election and stuff, a lot of people were saying, like, don't post anything that's not about the election. It's like, no, like, let people keep posting their art. Like,
Absolutely.
they're already trying to silence you. Like, don't let your peers silence you, too. I don't know. That's just my opinion.
I mean, and two, like, this is the same coin, like, your peers should lift you up, right? And, like, people like me with more privilege, even in the queer community, should be using, you know, the power and visibility to, like, bring up people who really need it. So, you know, going to what you said about community, I think we also have to be just, like, realistic about how people wield power and influence in the world and, you know, use that responsibly and not selfishly.
Yeah, beautiful answers. Shifting a little bit, and this might be, you might need a second to think, but if you had an unlimited budget and you could make a feature film about any person from queer history, who would it be? What story would you tell? It's okay if you don't have one.
I mean, she's not, like, queer, but I mean, I've always said that if I had to make, like, a biopic, which I don't think I would do, but if I did, it would be about Courtney Love. But she's not queer, I guess, but
Still iconic.
yeah. That's, like, the first one that comes to mind, because that's what I've said I would do if I was going to make a biopic.
Love it.
But I can think of another one if y'all want to answer that.
I'm blanking on her name, but I've been doing this deep dive into this woman who was, I don't know if you'd call her a psychic or a telekinetic, but she was this woman who in Russia was like this famous, you know, extrasensory perception kind of telekinesis figure, and she was used essentially as like a political tool to intimidate other nations, like during the conflict. She was studied for 20 years. She could like separate egg yolks out of the white, like underwater. That was one of her like psychic tricks. She like killed a frog with her mind one time. She was sued for like, I don't know what the crime was, like essentially lying to the public. Fought back, won. And so she's just like this really fascinating woman because she, for her whole life, was like, yeah, no, I can move things with my mind. And, you know, there's that whole angle of like, oh, now the government's getting involved and she's this tool. So it's almost like Stranger Things-y, but grown up and like a little kind of like a political thriller, Stranger Things kind of a thing, without no upside down. Yeah, Nina Kulagina. Yeah. Thank you.
I don't know if it's a film that I would make. I don't know that I'm the voice to make it, but what immediately came to mind was Stormé and Marsha P. Johnson and Sylvia Rivera. I would love to see just a film from their perspective, not just a documentary, not just about their hardship, but just like a film, and maybe be in the writing room for this, but I don't think that I should direct it. A film about their joy, like see joyous moments, even if it's one day that was just really good, and at the Cubbyhole and Stonewall, just a really joyous day in their perspective.
Was Joan Jett gay?
Yeah.
Yes, Joan Jett or Bowie, just rock and roll.
Yeah.
Gay.
Yeah, the Runaways certainly said that they were.
I don't know. I was thinking about, well, there's already a movie about Pasolini, but he's one of my favorite directors who is Catholic and gay and like a polarizing figure. But I don't know. There was already a movie about him, though, where I think Willem Dafoe played him. But maybe I'll do my own version.
Yeah.
If
This
with
is a world in
unlimited
which you have an
budget.
unlimited budget. Absolutely. Thank you. Okay. So part of the idea for this panel was it's queer filmmakers talking about whatever they want to talk about. So is there something, it doesn't have to be related to cinema, that's on your mind that any of you would like to chat about, to vibe or to vent?
No thoughts in this brain right now.
To vent?
You got a mic?
I bet we could vent.
Yeah, you know, if I'm gonna vent, I'm tired of the 1 second gay characters in any large movie. You know, there was a whole bit in this show called The Other Two about one of the characters who was gonna play the first openly gay animated character, I think named Blobby, and it did a really good job of satirizing like that. They did like the moment in Beauty and the Beast with LeFou was like gay and he had like a gay moment, but in the film it just ended up being like he looks at another man during a dance scene, or like there was two women kissing in Star Wars: The Rise of Skywalker at the very end, and I don't know. I'm just commit. Just include us or don't. But this weird middle ground feels
The new Star Wars seem to be
dishonest.
trying really hard.
Yeah, it feels dishonest. So.
It's that old joke. Mom says it's my turn to be Disney's first openly gay character. Any other things that are floating around in your brains? Amazing. No thoughts, just vibes.
Vibes, lots of vibes.
Amazing. I'm going to turn it over to the audience briefly, and then we'll bring it back for a couple more questions. Does anyone have a question for our panel? Also, no thoughts, just vibes.
I do feel we are vibing in this room, I will say.
We're having a great time. It's just a chill time. Amazing. So I'm going to ask a couple of like nitty gritty filmmaking questions, if that's okay. So as an actor, I often like to know how different filmmakers go about their casting process. And I know a couple of you were just on a panel where you got asked this question. I'm sorry, I'm asking it again because not everybody was. So when you're looking for talent, where do you usually go? Where do you usually post? Who do you contact first? What's your process like?
Honestly, social media, like literally Instagram. I follow, anytime I see an actor who looks interesting, I always like follow them. And if somebody's face just resonates with me, I'll try to check out their reel or their work. I've had actors reach out to me and send me their reels, or there have been times I've requested to see like, hey, do you have an acting reel, or have you ever acted? And also sometimes I cast friends. I recently started working with one of my best friends, Olive, and she hadn't acted since she was in high school. Now she's like full on trying to pursue acting again after we worked on a film together. My partner Noah is an actor. I'm surrounded by actors now, I guess. But yeah, like literally Instagram and social media. I mean, the great thing about Instagram is that you can see like the full scope of a person's personality sometimes in what they post. And even if it's not like acting, you can just, I don't know, you can just like see the scope of like what they behave like or look like. And sometimes you just start picturing them in a specific role. Or yeah, I mean, I would say that's how I usually go about castings these days, honestly.
Yeah, I used Backstage some, but I think that platform has kind of gone downhill and just kind of full of strange stuff. And also actors stopped responding on it, and I don't know what's going on with that. So I work mostly with casting directors and just like being in the community and getting recommendations for people to bring in for reads. In terms of like the actual casting process, I look for two things. Actors who, you know, it's a high pressure situation, right? For the artist to come in, you know, they want to be here. They obviously want the part because they're here. But I think it's a really critical tool and skill to have when you're on set is to be able to kind of get out of your own head and get out of your own way. And I find that often, like, when actors can come into the room and just read with some truth, it shows you, like, okay, A, they're prepared. B, they're doing good work here for you in the room right now. And so that to me is always like a green flag. Then the other thing that I look for is I like to be really prepared with the text, with the sides that we're reading with. And if an actor comes in and like in some way surprises me, but that surprise like feels truthful to the text, that's another green flag, because to me that's like the mark of a really good actor, who can see something that you're not and make you believe, that it's real for them. So.
I've lived in Brooklyn 12 years and some change, and have been very lucky to remain close with a lot of my alums from Texas State, many of whom are living in New York and several in LA and a little bit all over. So as a writer, I do try, if I'm working on a script for a film that I want to make, I try to keep people that I know in mind, so that I can kind of go from there and build a story around them and their skills. So far, that's kind of how I've been going about it. And that's mostly because I don't have the money to go out and pay a bunch of actors I don't know. But also, I just have incredibly talented friends, and I'm very lucky to have a deep well of actors that I respect deeply.
So I met the two main actors on set of other independent movies, and we became friends. And Lola, the main actor, they were a bit frustrated with the choices they were given and the roles that they were playing. So I wrote it for them, essentially, and had them help me develop the script. And there's three characters, and the other one I went to high school with, and we did theater together. So very friend thing, but I think I'll be going in Instagram DMs.
That is so lovely and touching. That is.
Oh. Excellent. All right. Speaking of being on set, can be your most recent project, can be an older one, but do you have a story of a time that something went horribly wrong? And then how did you improvise, adapt, and overcome?
I feel like this question comes up a lot, and like it's weird because I feel like things happen like that constantly in this industry, and then like when I get that question, I'm like, oh god, like which one's the worst? I can't even think of like I literally can't even think of like the first one off the top of my head, because I feel like every film set something goes wrong. Like all of a sudden there's unprecedented like construction right next to your location, or an actor drops, or like at this point I feel like at least I've gotten to a point where something goes horribly wrong and I'm able to be like, great, well, like what's next? So like I don't even have time to panic at this point. Yeah, I don't know, that's not an answer, but something's always going wrong, so.
I gotta say, I agree. Like the job on set is to solve the problems that the day brings you, and obviously, like you come to that day as prepared as you can get, and then you have to be prepared to kind of throw it all out the window and figure out the things that you need to figure out. I will say, like Brandon's back there. He's the DP on our last short, Crystalline, and it was a smooth set. Tell him about the alleyway grease. Oh. We had an overnight shoot, and it was a cold November night. And we had this really great shot. We were looking down an alleyway. It's got this beautiful perspective. There's a car at the end. It's lit gorgeously. But we all had to stand for hours and hours and hours because it's an alleyway behind restaurants in this biofilm goo slime that was dripping down the alley. And it became like a liability because we were slipping in it. We had to like go in and out of the shot and like go drag this. It was a nightmare. And the shoes at the end of that day, I think you can probably smell what I'm describing in your heads right now. It was a lawsuit waiting to happen, although we did have insurance. So
One comment I will make: have a good AD. That'll save you a lot of trouble if you have a really good AD.
Yeah, to that point, we did not have a AD on SOC. We had a scriptie that met me at a poetry reading and said that he wanted to help however he could, and he helped how he could. But it made post significantly harder, and it took a long time. It took about a year and a half to get the film completely, a 5-minute short completely done. And we're still kind of encountering some post obstacles. Didn't encounter a lot on set. There was the releasing children into McGolrick Park after school. That was a lot. But it was also kind of cute because then they stopped and watched the sock puppet for a little while. So that was actually really lovely. So it was, audio issues, but it was really cute. Yeah, other than that, I've mostly, as an actor, worked on pretty smooth sets. I've done some really bad films, but shooting them went well.
You can't have both.
Yeah, exactly.
Pick one.
I've made a lot of mistakes. Most recently, I was shooting the pilot of LRC, which is a DMV concert series. It just came out. Check it out. And my beautiful DP asked me, is the frame rate on your camera correct? And I was like, yes, obviously. And then I shot the entirety of it in slow motion and went second by second and just did that manually. So that was really beautiful. And then I have another one. This wasn't my film, but during the wrap party, we realized that we wrote over the, I think it was the last day of filming, the entire, they wouldn't let me run it through a program because just burned it. It was crazy.
That stuff is always a nightmare. This actually gave me flashbacks on a short I did a couple of years ago. For one whole setup, we had to shoot with reference sound instead of time code, and that means you're shooting camera separately from your sound and you link them in post. And so you can use a reference audio track if you can get into your camera to sync it up with the good audio. And I get it into the edit, and there's just no reference audio linked to the camera files. So I had to sync them by lip sync moving, and it was such a tedious process. But it's you mess up, once on set, and you
Teach
get it
if
into
you never
edit.
to do that again.
Yeah,
Never,
that's
ever.
that's never exactly. Yeah, well, we didn't use that either. So don't.
Thank you. Great stories. Transitioning a little bit, since you all have learned so much by doing, do you have any advice for beginning filmmakers?
I feel like whenever I talk to folks who are really green, their biggest thing is just being lacking confidence, I guess, which is something that's a hurdle that everybody conquers differently. But don't be scared of the DP you're working with. Don't be scared of, even if the people you're working with and hiring are more experienced than you, which they should be, because you want to work with people who know more than you. That will always make your film better. But just be really sure in your vision and be really confident in your vision, even if you don't know the technicalities of, you don't have to know how the camera works. That's the DP's job. Just be really confident in what the result is that you want. Don't let anybody push you around. This is your film. If you're the director and the writer, it's your film, it's your vision, and everybody else there is there to execute your vision. And if somebody's behaving egregiously disrespectful, then we'll fire them. But yeah, just be strong in your vision, even if you haven't gained that confidence yet. Just trust in your own vision.
Yeah, I like that. I mean, I'll speak from like the director's perspective, and similar to what you're saying, I think you have if you want to make good art and you have a specific vision, you have to figure out a way to communicate what that vision is to everyone that you work with, right? You want to make a film with a certain tone, with a certain look, a certain style, a certain feeling. You have to figure out a way to get everyone on the same page. You want as many people on your set as possible to be making the same film, right? And there are tools, right, that you can do that with. You can make your director's lookbook. You can make it in a Word document if you don't know how to use like a website builder, but song samples, visuals, colors, themes, symbols. You want to brief as many people as possible. You want to create the movie that you're trying to make in every one of your collaborators' heads. Like, try to do that and take that seriously, because one of the things that can happen is like, you know, the vision can become diluted if it's not communicated. If you're all kind of doing a different thing on set, you know, there's like a common, I don't know if it's common, but some critics will say for like maybe an actor's performance, it felt like they were in a different movie from the rest of the performances, for example. And so, you know, in those instances, maybe it's just like they weren't sharing the vision. And then the other thing is like, take the process seriously. Do your work in pre-production. You know, plan your shot list down to the day, down to the minute. You have to prepare as much as you can, especially for indie filmmakers. And when you do that, you're really able to use your resources like to the best of their potential. You know, I've been on some sets where it's clear that like the planning isn't so much there. And you know, some filmmakers have different styles. They go to the day, and filmmaking is the process for them, and they discover a lot on set. But I think that the more preparation you do, the better, you know, material you can get by the time you get to the day.
Yeah, I echo all of that. I think that it's really important to be very communicative, be good at delegating, be very respectful. And I feel like sets that I've worked on that have worked best have felt like a community, like everyone knew exactly what their job was, they were going to do it, but we're also treating each other with respect and having a lot of fun. I do not like yelling on my set. One of my favorite things, and I didn't even have to say that, but Trisha, the DP, her cam op had on the monitor no yelling zone, and my God, did it go smoothly. I've done some PA work on other sets, like I PA'd for SNL a couple times, and it can just be so chaotic, and it's just like yelling doesn't work. Yelling doesn't work. Be communicative, be communicative, be kind, and be very organized.
In terms of the content itself, I definitely feel like it's good to be specific and weird. That I think that's the only way to get something really interesting. And then for the filmmaker side, at the end of this, I definitely feel like sorry, I just lost my train of thought. I just think that in order to get, you have to give. So you just have to figure out what you're willing to give.
Excellent. I think we got about 10 minutes left. Oh, we got about 15 minutes left. So I'm going to ask a two-part question, and it's okay if you don't want to answer the second part. Are there any filmmakers that you really love, and why? Second question, are there any filmmakers who you think maybe a little overrated, and why? It's okay if you don't want to answer part two. You want to be professional, I understand, but if you want to be catty, we got the time.
How much time do I have to answer part two?
15 minutes.
All right, I'll be taking the rest of this 15 minutes, guys, to give my list. No, okay, well, should I just list like one for each, or
I would do.
Let's do that, so I don't have to go on and on. Okay, well, off the top of my head, like one of my favorite filmmakers of all time is Lars von Trier, because I think that he's extremely raw and honest, and I think that even though his films are really dark, I think that he actually has like a deep empathy for humanity, and that's the way I see his films. And this is really random because I feel like I never talk about her, but when I for some reason, I just thought of Emerald Fennell. I feel like she's a rich kid. I don't like her.
That's a hot take.
I just feel like she's like a rich kid. I don't know. Isn't she a trust fund kid? I don't know.
Well,
Yes.
I don't know if gay people just have like a high tolerance for shenanigans, but I did feel a little let down by the spiciness of Saltburn. I was kind of like waiting to be shocked.
Why was my entire timeline people saying, if you think Saltburn was kinky, then you're not even kinky?
I think
Like,
it's
what's
a
with you
thank you
freaks
gay
that I
people moment. For sure. I didn't mean to interrupt you if you were still going.
I don't know. I feel like there's like so many more I could list, but that was the first one that came to my head for some reason.
Well, my favorite director is Pedro Almodovar. He's just... what I admire so much about his work is that he is able to work with really big emotions and melodrama without taking you out of it. Melodrama is really not a popular like mode of telling stories these days, and I just think about how he's able to just land these crazy stories. And then, of course, he writes so much about the lives of women in a way that I think is like loving and interesting, and he centers people who need to be centered, and has just a really interesting way of looking at human relationships and like the human heart and human experience. Oh, part two. Well, no, thank you.
Yeah. You don't have to. We believe in consent here.
Yeah, the first two that popped into my head were Miranda July and David Lynch.
Is David Lynch the one you don't like?
No.
Okay.
I like them both. The
okay,
first two
okay.
of like of filmmakers that I really admire because they're so weird and so and take such bold leaps, but it's a lot of fun even if you don't get it, and even if it's not for you, it's okay. I really love that I love the sense of this isn't going to be for everyone, but I know it's going to be for one of you. And you're who I'm doing this for. And if it's a lot of one of yous, fantastic. But that's who I'm doing this for. And I know that because this is inside me, it needs to come out. And once it's out, I'm so happy for whoever wants to receive it. Overrated? I mean, Lena Dunham.
Has she done anything besides Girls?
She just tried again. And I couldn't get through the first episode. And it's another, just like a very affluent trust fund. But, again, to the point of what I just said, not everything's for me. So it's fine. Go make your films.
I would say definitely John Waters,
Yes.
Baltimore, and Sofia Coppola. Sofia Coppola was definitely a big inspiration for Lady Frankie. And I also think that all the criticisms of her movies are valid, but I think it's interesting. And then a director I don't like, I'm not going to say a director, but I don't like it when the color grading in the whole movie is like all blue and like gray. I don't like that. I think we should light movies. I think that we should have fun.
And these were the hot takes I wanted. Thank you, Ten. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. Continue.
I mean, that was it. I just, like, Game of Thrones, like, I can't see anything. Like, I just, I can't. I want, like, beautiful women and beautiful men in beautiful dresses, and we're all dancing around. Like, that's a movie to me. That's all.
If I'm seeing my own reflection in the screen, we have a problem. Excellent. All right. So with our last 10 minutes, I wanted to give another opportunity. Did the audience have any questions? Yes, right there.
Yeah, so some NB friends of mine showed me Pink Flamingos for the first time on the topic of John Waters. And I was just wondering, what should I watch next? Because it's the only one I've watched so far. But if John Waters ain't your bag, you can recommend me something else if you'd like.
Oh boy.
Serial Mom.
Yeah.
So good.
Cecil B.
So
Demented is
funny.
really underrated too.
I haven't seen that one yet.
Oh, Polyester too.
One of Peter Jackson's early films, if you want something freaky, is called Dead Alive. Yeah, it's stunning.
Can it be not an official movie? There's this creator on YouTube called Sunny Lovekin, and right now the views have it's like 100 views. It's small. She's just starting, but it's really weird, but like well made. So check that out.
What's your favorite John Waters movie?
Favorite
I just want to know.
well, it was something flamenco. What was it again? Pink Flamingo, obviously, and I mean he made the original Hairspray, like legend, and I love the other Hairspray too. Crybaby, oh yeah, Crybaby. I mean he made culture. He's America.
Female Trouble is a good one. I love John Waters too.
Now you have your list. Any other questions? Yes.
What's something that you are excited about right now? Could be film related or like something else that you're just jazzed about.
Great question. What are you jazzed about?
I just finished a feature.
Congratulations.
Script.
You still did it.
I know, it's a letdown to hear that. Yeah, no, it was a year percolating and like 8 weeks writing, and it feels good to be done.
I have a short film that's about to hit the festival circuit soon called We'll Still Be Here. It stars Lindsay Normington, who was in the movie Anora, and Noah Peterson, he's in it, and Paige Smeltzer, an actress from New York. And it's a proof of concept that I am hoping will get my feature script funded. So it's pretty much all I think about every day when I wake up and every night before I go to bed.
That's exciting. Good for you.
I'm really excited about LRC, Living Room Concerts, the music series. I was able to collaborate with a local musician, Verg, on Lady Frankie, and it was one of my favorite parts, just to be able to work with local musicians and have that symbiosis. So I'm just excited to collaborate with more people and see what we can make.
Verg is awesome. You should check out their music.
Well, a few things. I'm getting married in October. Thank you. And I have a book of sapphic smut poetry that's to be published by Red Hen Press in spring of 27. And I'm just starting to get my blurbs back from other authors, and they're making me cry. It's really nice. Would I recommend having a short in film festivals and planning a wedding and trying to get your book made all at the same time? No, but it's very fun.
Sounds awesome.
Ah, what a beautiful pop of joy that was. Any other questions from the audience? No? Okay. Oh, yes.
Do you have any thoughts around new technologies or AI and how that influences?
I don't want anything.
Coming in with the last couple of minutes with the
My-
AI question.
Not boo to you, boo to AI.
My literary agent included in my contract for the book a clause that earned her 10%. She made sure that there was a clause included saying that AI cannot learn from my work. We're in talks with a company potentially picking up SOC for distribution, and I am asking that they have similar language in their contract, and I recommend that to anybody.
Yeah. So the risk of AI in filmmaking is that it will replace things that ought not to be replaced for the sake of a bigger profit, right? But, as artists, I think we have the obligation to learn the tools so that we can use them as such and not let them, take over what we do. And so it makes me nervous when I see filmmakers just completely writing it out of existence, like I'm not engaging with this at all, I think that's dangerous because it means that you don't understand it enough to put it where it ought to be instead of, letting it, again, take over what we do. As an indie filmmaker, like I think about how the door is going to blow open in terms of what we can actually make. You could shoot a whole movie and reskin the whole thing with AI, but maybe not touch the performances, right? Maybe there's a special effects element that you couldn't afford as CG, but with AI maybe you could. And so I think it's going to level the playing field for filmmakers in a lot of ways and enable kind of any story you want to tell. I think it's going to be at our fingertips really, really soon. But, we have an obligation to understand it so that we can put it in its place and not let big studios, kind of devalue our work and to kind of, change the industry for the worse. I think we've got to wrap our heads around it.
I think obviously there's been a lot of really cool technological advancements. Just an example, switching from, film to digital has allowed people who don't have as much money to make movies, which is cool. AI, I don't think I understand it a lot. There's a lot of really scary AI cat videos that keep popping up in my Instagram feed that are really freaking me out. And I keep clicking them and they keep popping up and it's terrifying. But I'm trying not to be too scared of AI though, taking over everybody's job. I did recently have a client reach out to me for a promo thing, and she was trying to use AI and she said it was terrible. And so she was like, I need real people to come film this stuff. So I don't really think it's maybe gonna take all our jobs the way we think it might. And it is kind of just it's gonna happen no matter what. So I don't think we should all panic over it, but can't say I'm a fan. It does freak me out a little bit personally. And I don't like all these new movies and stories that people are making about how scary AI is to try to prevent AI. I don't want to even see a movie about AI personally. Sorry.
I agree with it'd be good for the film industry for us to be familiar with it so that it doesn't control us and take over. I think a place where it could be good would be editing, color grading software. I just got familiarized with DaVinci and have been thinking about a lot of ways that it could be optimized without generating entire scenes and taking jobs from actors and stuff. So I think that maybe we can use it in a boring way, and that'd be good.
Excellent. So we are at about 2 minutes left, so I'm going to ask the final question of the day, which is, where do people go to find more of your work?
I would say my Instagram, The Artistic Haunting. If you need to grab that from me at any point, come say hi. I don't mind at all. I'd love to meet people here. That's probably the best way to keep up with what I'm doing.
Yep, Instagram at Cunetto, Cunetto. Also, you can Google Christopher Cunetto, for better or worse. I'm the only one on the internet, so it's an easy way to find me too. But I'm really active on Instagram. If you want to DM me, don't slide into my DMs because that's not respectful. But if you wanna DM me, ask any filmmaking questions, I'm all yours.
If you can figure out how to spell Seyla Hossaini, you can look up my name too.
Instagram, Ariane Powell. And if you are interested in the smut poetry, Ariane Powell Poet. It's .poet. If ARIANE, you're not going to remember that, but you know how to find me.
It's Meredithe Ettrich on Instagram and pretty much all of their social medias.
Amazing. Thank you all so much for being with us today, for sharing what's on your minds, what's in your hearts, for sharing your work with us. Thank you so much.
Thank you.